Dear friends, welcome to my Edu Dreams. This is presentation by Dr. Syed Hayat Basha, Assistant Professor of Education, Aligarh Muslim University Center Malappuram and District Malappuram, Kerala. If you have any queries regarding this video, you can WhatsApp me at 917736338828. You can also write to my email at hayat83n@gmail.com. Dear friends, in the previous video we have discussed about meaning and definitions of communication. In this video, I will discuss about elements of communication process. This topic is useful for B.Ed students, especially for Aligarh Muslim University B.Ed students, and also it is useful for all the students of all universities and colleges of education. What is communication process? Communication is a two-way process involving the following elements: a sender, a message, a medium, a channel, a receiver, a response, and feedback. However, it is not sufficient to have just all these elements. There should be cooperation and understanding between the two parties involved. It is important to have a common frame of reference or context for successful and meaningful communication. For example, a common language or common interpretation of a gesture. Essentially, communication involves the sender or the communicator and the receiver. Both should necessarily share a mutual accepted code, for example, a common language. The context in which the communication takes place is called the communication environment. The content of the code is sent in a certain medium, oral, written, or non-verbal, using channels, air, mics, body, pictures, text, etc., in the form of encoded messages. The code is not restricted to only language. It may also involve the use of costumes, gestures, colors, among other things. Dear friends, elements of communication process is a cyclic process. It moves from one to another. For example, context, sender, encoding, message, channel, decoding, receiver, feedback, noise. So this is a cycle of elements of communication process. Now we will discuss in detail about elements of communication process. The context which you have seen in the cyclic process, in the cycle of elements of communication process in the previous video. The context in which the communication takes place is called the communication environment. The sender sends a message using a medium and a channel to the receiver. The message arrives in the sensory world of the receiver. The receiver's brain filters the message on the basis of his or her knowledge, emotions, attitudes, and biases, and gives the message a unique meaning. This meaning may trigger a response which the mind of the receiver forms. The receiver encodes his or her response and sends it across as feedback into the sensory world of the sender. This completes one cycle of communication, and the process continues in a cyclic manner, that is, cycle after cycle, as long as the people involved care to communicate. So till now we have discussed about elements of communication process. In this slide we will discuss some of the important components of communication process. Idea. What is needed for sender? An idea is needed to a sender. Idea or impulse that arises in the sender's mind. Formal expression of the idea or impulse using a medium and channel, that is encoding. Interpretation of the message by the receiver, that is decoding. Reaction or response of the receiver. After receiving the message, a receiver reacts on the message, that is called as reaction or response. Conveying the reaction response in the feedback using a medium and channel. Decoding of the feedback received. Dear friends, in this video I will discuss about some of the essentials of effective communication. A common communication environment. For effective communication, a common communication environment is required. Number 2, cooperation between the sender and the receiver. If there is no cooperation between the sender and receiver, so effective communication cannot happen. So, selection of an appropriate channel. Appropriate channel is also needed for effective communication. Correct encoding and decoding of the message. Encoding and decoding of the message means we have to write a message in a correct language. The message should be grammatically correct. Then only a receiver will understand the message. Receipt of the desired response and feedback. So after that, feedback also required. Feedback. The transmission of the receiver's response to the sender is called feedback. It is one of the most vital factors of the communication process. It is essential because it is a barometer of effective communication. The sender needs to know whether the receiver of the message has received it in the intended way and whether he responds in the desired manner. Of course, even if one receives a response, it may or may not be the one you had expected. But once you receive some response, you know that the message has been communicated. For example, a notice for a meeting. There could be both positive and negative responses to this message. So dear friends, from this slide you can take screenshot. It will be helpful for your theoretical examinations. There could be both positive and negative responses to this message. Some may turn up for the meeting and some may not. Communication is said to be fully effective only when you get the desired response. Feedback helps in improving communication as it enables the sender to pinpoint defects in the transmission of the message. A skillful communicator is always looking for warning signs that the communication is not going well and adjusts messages accordingly. Being alert to feedback helps the sender know whether he or she is on the right track. In the long run, it helps in understanding one's strengths and weaknesses in the communication context. Dear friends, there are two types of feedback, positive or negative. Positive feedback occurs when the receiver receives the desired response based on a clear understanding of the symbols used in the message. Negative feedback occurs when there is an undesired response because of miscommunication. In some cases, not getting feedback is also a sort of feedback. For instance, complete silence on the part of the receiver is also an indicator of either effective communication or a failure on the part of the communicator. Observation of changes in the recipient's behavior in face-to-face communication is a source of valuable feedback in cases where the receiver does not explicitly express his reaction. For instance, if a counselor gives a pep talk to a depressed student and notices that he is more cheerful, relaxed, and willing to talk on his next visit, he interprets this change as a positive response. Feedback may be either immediate or delayed. For example, overall responses are immediately conveyed, but in case of written communication, the feedback may take some time. Noise. In some cases, the message may fail to produce the desired response because of a semantic gap or a barrier between the sender and the receiver. This is termed as noise. It refers to any unplanned interference in the communication which causes a hindrance in the transmission of the message. There are two types of noise: channel noise and semantic noise. Channel noise, this refers to static mechanical failures, problems in volume, pitch, legibility of text, etc. Semantic noise, here noise is generated internally resulting from errors in the message itself. Ambiguity, grammatical errors, wrong spellings, incorrect punctuation, etc. This is all about noise. So friends, that's all about in this video. Thank you for watching my EduDreams. Next topic is on types of communication in teaching learning process. Special thanks for those who have subscribed my EduDreams. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my EduDreams